this is the Algebra 2, Year 2 partner test for 7-1 to 7-4. The first three questions, can you determine whether or not the equation is linear, quadratic, exponential, and you just get 1 point for each of these. You should be able to pick out which is which. The first one is linear because the x and the y are to the first power, linear. Number 2 is exponential, and number 3 is quadratic. 3 points. Number 4 and 5, you are given exponential growth and decay situations. Now, you have to be able to pick out if it's a growth problem or decay. How do you know if it's growth? If this value is over 1, it's growth. So this one was under 1, it's decay. So we have a growth and we have a decay. Now, what is the growth rate? It wants the rate, not the factor. The rate, it's either gonna, if this one, since it's over 1, it's 1 plus r. So if you take the 1 away, what is the r value? It's 50%. 1 plus 0.50. So your rate is 50% here. And what's the y-intercept? 0, 3. And for 5, this is, since it's less than 1, it's 1 minus r. So what would this number, what would this rate have to be to get 75% as your growth factor? 1 minus 0.25 is your 0.75. Now what you could have done was you could set this equal to 0.75 and do it that way, but it's 25%.
Wait, I'm confused. Wouldn't you just subtract 1 from the 0.75?
Yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
Yeah, you put 1 minus 0.75.
Yeah, 1 minus, so if you were to do 1 minus r equals 0.75, if you were to subtract that, you would get negative r equals negative 0.25.
How do
How do you get
Yeah.
50% out of 1 plus 0.50?
Okay, I see what you did.
Because
Can you keep that up for a second?
you're adding 1 to this number. So 1 plus what gives you 1.50?
What'd you get for the
Right.
1.50. So if you were to subtract 1, r is 0.50, which is 50%.
Okay. What'd you get for the y-intercept again?
This one's 0.3, this one's 0.2. Your y-intercept is the number before the base. Okay?
There's always a 0 in front of it?
Yeah, because the y-intercept, the x value is 0. Yes.
Okay.
Number 5, it says the initial population of bacteria in a lab is 600. So the initial amount is 600. The bacteria is doubling. So that's your growth factor. It's doubling. What if it were tripling? The base would be a 3. So double is a 2, triple is a 3. So every 2 hours, it's gonna double. So we wanna know, every 2 hours, it's going to double. How many 2-hour periods do you have in 6 hours? So here's 6 hours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Every 2 hours, that's 1 time, so it is 3. So your x value here would be 3. That's the number of time periods. Now, what answer do you get? You get 4,800 bacteria. Anyone have any questions? Know how to use your calculator. Number 6, the population of Dayton, it started off is in that year 52,200 in 1990. The population is projected to grow. So what are you going to have here? And at what rate? At 3% per decade. So it's 1 plus 0.03. Now the time period is every 10 years. So every 10 years, that's a decade. So how many time periods are gonna go by from the year 1990 to year 2030?
4.
How many time periods are gonna go by?
4.
4.
4. 4 decades. So what is 52,200 times 1.03 to the 4th power? And it says, predict your answer to the nearest 1,000. The nearest 1,000. So when you type this in your calculator, you end up getting an exact amount is 58,751.6. How do you round to the nearest 1,000? What number is the 1,000 place?
Where'd you get the 4th power from?
How many decades are there from 1990 to 2030?
I thought you just, oh,
It's every decade.
I thought you did the years. Like the years. Never mind.
From every 10 years, we have 1 decade. So from 1990 to 2000, that's 1 decade. From 2000 to 2010, that's 2 decades. 2010 to 2020, that's 3, and then 2030, that's 4 decades. Okay, that's how you got 4. So now, back to this rounding. Which number is the nearest 1,000? Is it this? 1,000. Let's go back. What's this spot right here?
1,
That's the ones. That's the
2,
tens. That's the hundreds. That's the 1,000. So if I want to round to the nearest 1,000, I look at this number, and it says to do what with this 8? Bump it up to 1. So 59,000 is the correct answer. So 59,000 people is your answer.
I don't ever, like, I have a problem knowing what formula to use when. Like, there's A equals P and then parentheses 1 plus R over N.
That's money, that's the interest one.
And then there's the one that,
A times,
A equals P and then the E.
that's on the back page.
Yeah, I know, like, I don't know when to use, you know what I'm saying?
We'll get to that. This front page is the formula. A, or A times 1 plus or minus R to the X power, the number of periods. So your initial amount, and then it's either, if it's growth, it's 1 plus R. If it's decay, it's 1 minus R. And then the X value is the number of time periods. That's what this front page was doing. The back page is money. We'll do that in a second. Okay, number 7. Pat bought a car. The initial amount of the car was $13,500. And everyone knows that cars, for the most part, depreciate in value. The salesperson is saying that the value of the car would decline, so that's going down, that's decay, by 8% every year. So it's 1 minus the rate. And I want to know, so it's 1 minus, we're going to write instead of 1 minus R, let's put 1 minus 0.08. And I want to know for the next 6 years. So this is 6. That's all you have to do. Now, if you know what is 1 minus 0.08, think of what's $1 minus 8 cents? Yes, 92 cents.
Would it be negative?
$1 minus 8. This
Oh,
is
never
not
mind,
gonna be a
sorry.
negative number,
I
it's
wasn't
just gonna
told.
be, it's gonna be less than 1 or greater than 1. It's gonna be between 0 and 1 or greater than 1. Now, we wanna know, what's the value to the nearest $100? 100. So if you do this problem in your calculator, calculator, you get $8,185.79. Well, the question says to the nearest $100. This is the $100 spot. So you go to the left, this 8 tells you to do what with this 1? Bump it up to 2. So the car is gonna be worth $8,200 in 6 years. Okay, now, Angelo, 8 and 9, this is the question that you have. You have money, and you're gonna put it into a bank account. You're gonna invest it. Now, depending on the type of, interest rate you get and how many times a year you're compounding interest, this is your formula. I'm gonna write them both down. Now, if it says compounding yearly or annual, yearly N would be 1. If it says monthly, how many months are there in a year? 12. What if it says quarterly?
Or,
Good. What if it says semi or biannual?
2,
N would be 2. What if it said daily?
365.
Am I missing one? Monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, daily? That's good. So you are gonna read the problem, and in whatever it says, that's gonna be the N value. So, for this particular problem, how much were we investing? $7,000 at an interest rate of 4%. Make sure you convert that to a decimal. Now, we're compounding interest semi-annual. So how many times a year is that?
2,
2. And for how many years do we wanna know? 6.
what's annually again?
Annually is once a year. Semi-annual is twice a year.
So annually and yearly is the same?
Annually and yearly are the same, yes. Annually means yearly. Now, when you type this in your calculator, make sure you understand order. What do you get for an answer? $8,877.69. Now, for the next one, see this word continuous? You use this formula, PERT. Principal times the E value raised to the RT. PERT. So now this one, continuously, you jump to this formula. You're gonna take $52,000, or $5,200, and you're investing it at 3.5%, so 0.035 for 14 years. You get $8,488.04. $8,488.04. Questions, anyone? You got the 2 formulas. You guys know what N is?
What does P stand for again?
P is the principal amount. How much money are you putting in? Now, in the next few sections, after you guys test, I'm gonna ask you to tell me what the interest rate is. But not on this test.
For that one, is that what we were putting in? Is that E, the X
Yes,
power?
yes. Okay, number 10. Read what this says. Draw in the asymptotes with a dashed line. Look at your graph. Do you have asymptotes. Do you have a broken line? Where should the broken line be? Y equals -2, that's your asymptote. So, keep that in mind, but let's do all the math. I want you to do this without a calculator. If you wanna go back and check your answers, that's fine, but I want this filled out, and you guys can do this. What do you do first? This is the first thing you do. You take your x value and you subtract 4. If you took all these x values and subtracted 4, what do you get? Right? What happens to these? Leave them the same. Next, jump out here. What does this tell you to do? Take your y values and multiply them by 4. So if we multiply this by 4, you get 1. Multiply it half times 4 is 2, then 4, then 8, then 16, then 32. Keep your x's the same. Okay, and the last thing you're gonna do is take your y values and bring them down 2 down. So 1 minus 2 is -1, then 0, then 2, then 6, then 14, and then 30. Now, I understand that some of these points you may not be able to graph, but as long as we see them in the table, you're good. So graph the ones that you can. These 4 for sure you can graph, okay? So over 6 down 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Over 5 up 0, over 4 up 2, then 3, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And -214 is off. It's right there. So obviously that one's gonna be way off. So what I want you to do is connect your dots with a smooth curve, but if you did this, put your broken line in, what you should do is your graph should get closer and closer to that, but not cross it. Perfect 8 points for that. Anyone have any questions? Okay, so quickly tell me how to do this next one. What's the first thing you're gonna do with the parent function? You're gonna take your x values and add 4. Add 4 to these, what do you get? And then what? Take your y values and multiply them by -2. So keep the x's the same. Multiply these by -2, you get -1/2, -1, -2, -4, -8, and -16. And then do what? Add 4. So keep the x's the same. Add 4, you get 3.5. 3, 2, 0, -4, and -12. And let's graph them. Over 2 up 3.5. Over 3 up 3. Over 4 up 2. 5, 0. 6, -1, 2, 3, 4. And 7, -12. So this is what you have. You have this graph. Now, what should this smooth curve not cross? What line? What imaginary line? And I'm gonna do it with my marker. So this is what I want you to do. You're gonna lose a point if you don't put this broken line here. That's your asymptote. And you're also going to lose a point if your graph shoots past this line. So look at your graph. Are you crossing that line y equals 4? It should get closer and closer to it, but not cross it. This is a very important line. Okay, everyone good? I wanna see your graph extend, but not cross it for 8 points. Hey, you guys did very good on this log stuff, which is a good sign because we're gonna be doing more logs, we're not done. So for number 12, what's the y-intercept? 0, 3. For these two, how do you write these in log form? Log of 8,000 base 20 is equal to 3. This one would be the log of 1/9 base 3 equals -2. How do you write these in exponential form? Well, the base is 21 to the third power is equal to 9,261. This one, the base is 1/5 to the -4th power is equal to 625. Show your work. How do you solve for v? If you rewrite this, 5 to the third power is v. Well, what is 5 to the third power? 125. What?
That comes to lots of crap.
I know, I like that, my math is correct. Number 16, 8 to what power is 1? Well, we know what that is, it's 0. Any number to the 0 power is 1.
We have 16.
Okay, number 17, this one, 2 to the 4th power is v. Well, 2 to what power? 2 to the 4th power is what? 16. And the last one, v to the 6th power is 729. What number multiplied 6 times gives you 729? 3. These two, you definitely need a calculator. Now, for those of you that subtracted, did 32 minus 2, that is incorrect. If this were in parentheses, if you saw a parenthesis like that, then you can subtract those two, but they're not. They're not in parentheses. So what you have to do is the change of base formula for this. Now, if you type in log, it depends on the calculator that you have, and we've talked about this. That's one way to do that problem, or if you have the Inspire, you can type it in exactly like that. And then you're gonna subtract 2 from whatever you get here. This answer ends up being -0.333. Now it says round your answer to the nearest 100. So this TH, this is the 100, so I would write -0.33 for the answer. And this one, just type this in your calculator, the log of 14 base 7, your answer is 1.36. It's not 2, you guys. Did anybody put 2? Because that's tricky. Last 5 problems. How good are you at expanding and condensing using the properties? Okay, expand this. What are we doing with 9, x, and y? We're multiplying them. So what does the product rule say to do? Log of 9 base 3 plus the log of x base 3 plus the log of y base 3. Now it says simplify if possible. Can you do any one of these? What's this? What is 3 to what power give you 9? 2. That's your best answer. Next one, how do you expand this one? Well, this is a quotient and a power rule. So you're gonna write log of x to the third minus the log of 16. These are both base 2. Now, what do you do with this power? Goes in front. And can we simplify this? Do we know 2 to what power is 16? 2 to the 4. 3 more. How do you expand this one? It's all of the rules. Let's first put the pluses. Oops. Like my pencil? Broken. And it's stapled. Somebody stapled it. Log of b to the third minus the log of c to the fourth. What are these what's the base on these?
3.
Are all 3. Don't forget that. Now, is this answer simplified or expanded enough? Yeah, there's one more thing we can do with all these powers. All of these powers go in front. So it's 2 times the log of a base 3 plus 3 times the log of b base 3 minus 4 times the log of c base 3. Anybody have any questions? Now, how do you write this? Now we're gonna condense as a single log and simplify if possible. So what do these plus signs tell you to do? Plus signs, and are all the bases the same? They sure are. So it's the log base 5, we know that. What do you do with this, this, and this? You multiply them. Now, we have one problem. What did I do wrong? What did I miss? This 3 has to go with this. It's y to the third power. Be careful on that. And the last one. I'm gonna back these powers up first. Let's do that. Log of x to the 4th power base 2 plus the log of y to the 4th power base 2 minus the log of z cubed base 2. So all I did was bring my powers back. Now, how am I gonna simplify? Are these all base 2? Yep. So it's gonna be one single log base 2. Now what do I do with these 3 things? How am I gonna express that? Well, x to the 4th, y to the 4th, over z cubed, all base 2. And that's your test.